Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dillon, I'm your host, and today, guys, I am honestly going to be jumping a little bit over the place, going through a ton of topics from AI, automation, how I use it, and really what you can do in this new age of AI. At the end of the day, we've got to increase our productivity, lower our costs, grow our revenue, all so that we can maintain our competitive advantage in today's day and age. And so the reason I'm going to be jumping around a little bit is because some of this isn't like a cohesive topic. It should be, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So I've got a whole bunch of papers here that I'm going to go through. But for the most part, for everybody listening and watching, is automation is about the only way that we can improve our productivity at the rate that we need to and maintain our competitive advantage. Everybody's looking for cheaper stuff, more cost-effective solutions. And so we've got to be more competitive in the way that we go to market, the way that we position our services, the way that we help everybody. So the way that we can do that is honestly, one is through software, through better systems, processes, automation solutions. Two that I've talked about forever is training, right? To be able to train your team, train your clients on the process, know what you need, when you need it. And the more effective you can be in that whole solution of getting projects, getting the information you need and executing on it, the better off everybody's going to be. So there's implementing software for it. There's making software that's custom to you and your solutions and what you need. And then there's how do you get clients becoming more cost effective in that, right? Doing things in a cost effective manner, whatever that means to you guys, right? Going out, knocking on doors, going to shows, going to exhibit halls, right? Whatever conferences, whatever you do to get more work, to continue to do more of that and find more clients that way. The other thing that I really want to talk about is with a lot of these new systems, new processes, and me being or having the ability to talk to a lot of engineers, a lot of contractors, is really getting an understanding of how firms adopt technology, how they talk to people, how they go to market with all this stuff. And so what a lot of the time happens is younger engineers or even some senior engineers have an idea of how they think work should be done, how they think it should be executed, right? The software that they think should be used, when maybe leadership doesn't agree with that. And so you have a mismatch between what leadership wants, what leadership's looking for, the firm ownership is looking for, and the cost marks that they have to be, what proposals need to be out, where their pricing structure needs to be, and the rest of the team has no idea. So when they see something that could save them time, they might think it threatens their job, right? They have a fear of losing their job, losing their ability to be a productive member of the team. And what that ends up doing is creating a atmosphere where you're not going to implement new solutions. You're not going to implement new productivity measures because somebody's afraid of losing their job. And so the firm becomes less competitive, less effective in the marketplace. So they lose out on more projects, which means if that continues for a long enough time period, somebody could lose their job, but for the exact opposite reason, in that the firm didn't become more competitive in the marketplace. They didn't do things faster where somebody else did. And people end up losing their jobs because the firm can't sustain that level of overhead. So you cut either a few people and hopefully the firm doesn't go out of business because they can't be competitive. But that's something that you really have to think about. But as a firm owner and leadership, you've got to think of how to communicate things like that to your team, but not in a threatening way. It's like, hey, we've got to get better. We have to continue to improve. Yes, that might happen, right? The firm go out of business, whatever. If you're not winning projects, everybody knows that, right? You don't want to truly instill fear, but just have a sense of urgency for the team to say, hey, this is what we've got to do to continue winning projects, to continue going out in the marketplace, to continue to serve our clients and what's most effective for them is implementing these solutions, putting these things to use, building your own custom GPT, using automation solutions, right? All that stuff is what really makes you super effective in how you go to market. AI, automation, software, those are things you're going to have to figure out, implement, and do to maintain your competitive advantage in the marketplace. The other thing is, like, with a lot of these firms, a lot of these engineers, the younger generation wants to be able to get up and running quickly, right? They want to be an effective member of the team. So a lot of this comes down to how do you effectively train, onboard, and help your next generation of engineers be an effective teammate. The easiest way to do that is, like I've talked about, is to record yourself, give it to them, they do it, give you back the work, then you critique them by also recording your critiques so that they have that revision, your comments, and can sift through it, right? Just like watching a YouTube video where they can rewind, so they can do it again, versus just having to try to absorb everything that you're going to tell them. They can continuously watch the feedback of it, and it creates faster feedback cycles for them. Plus, it allows you to become a better trainer because you're going to record yourself. You have the recordings. They then can have better questions as they go through what you shared with them. So that's one of the best ways that you can onboard and train. You are really for you to train your team and do it at scale, so you aren't repeating yourself as much. You're still going to repeat yourself, but you're not going to do it as much because now it's in video content. They can go back, rewatch what you showed them, and then you can probably have an editor or somebody chop some of that up to where it's very specific things that are talked about in each video, so that you can categorize them within a learning management system. And it's a much easier way to really build content over time of how you train your staff, how your firm does things, and really how you ultimately do the work and get it out the door. With a lot of this too, like, I'm using AI to basically generate a lot of the topics that I end up talking about here on the podcast. And that's really a great way for if you're wanting to start creating content, start doing some thought leadership pieces, is to talk to an AI about the things you want to talk about, what you're an expert in, for it to give you at least topics, right? Things that you can run through and talk to your audience about in a manner that you want to talk to them about. But what I highly recommend that you do not do is read these like verbatim. It's pretty good as far as like a hook or a headline, but the rest of it typically doesn't flow that well, or you can tell that it's a totally AI written prompt or script. And in order for you to come off as authentic as who you are, you want to do a lot of it. You can write out your full script, right? But you actually write it in your voice, in your tone, in your way of talking, and that'll give it a much better clarity and context around the content that you create. But that's just another way that you can start to use AI to increase your reach, increase your output as a firm. Now, the things that a lot of these topics that I have in here to talk about is your firm turning over, the struggles in Revit, right? Why automation is going to be it to expand, and why your firm ends up losing a lot of money, and why your margins decline as you grow. And a lot of this really just has to do with you not using automation, the training process that you need to implement for your team so that they become better. And you can onboard more people faster. They can get up to speed quicker, right? These are all the things that we need to do. And I continue to talk about these because it is probably the thing that everybody needs, right? You need automation, and you need basically a learning management platform, or just a library of YouTube videos and a Word doc that links all of them so that people can go watch the videos. That's as simple as it needs to be, or just a Word doc to link to somewhere on your server so that nobody goes down a YouTube rabbit hole. But other than that, like, those are the things, right? And then as you grow, now you're able to onboard and trade in people faster. They're able to learn quicker. They're able to get onboarded sooner. And then you can repeat that process better for everybody else. You then can, as the firm owner and leadership, build out the next system, the next process, the next thing down the line, which then allows more people to move up faster. You go get more work, it allows the firm to grow, right? These are the things that we as firm owners need to do so that we can grow and get ourselves out of the day-to-day of the organization so that we're able to really win more clients, win more work on the business, right? Financials, systems, processes. That's the big things that the firm ownership should do so that you can expand, you can grow, you can hire more people. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. Solve more problems for more people, and you need a bigger team to do that. But systems help tremendously in doing that. The more that you're able to do that also means that more guys won't burn out. They're not going to leave because they're overworked. They got too much going on, too much on their plate. Everything else that they're going through, they're going to stick around in the firm longer, which creates, again, continuity in the firm, creates longevity for them, stability for everybody involved. Your clients are happier. You're happier because you don't have to replace anybody. Hopefully those people are happy because they have stability, security in their role. And then if they're wanting to grow and improve, hopefully you have those positions for them so that they're able to grow in their role, grow in their responsibility, and do the things that they want to do in their life. So a lot of this comes down to, in the end of the day, where you train them, you onboard them, you have better systems and processes to get through things, which means using automation, AI, to do some of these. And then at the end of the day, where a lot of this ends up heading is, are you still reading? Are you still thinking? Are you still using your own brain to put all these parts and pieces together? Because a lot of folks are really, with AI and automation and software and that whole bag, it is going to where people are thinking less and less on their own. So the more that you're able to sit down, read a book, think through your plans, your processes, where you're heading, the better off you're going to be in the long term. Because if AI becomes ubiquitous, it means nobody's going to have a unique thought. So this goes down to your ability to think and create things. And especially when you're on the spot, right? You're not always plugged into AI. You might not have service somewhere. So the more that you're able to talk, create your own thoughts, do things on the spot with your clients, your team, the better off you're going to be, honestly, not only in person, but your conversation, everything else is going to be so much better when you're well-read, can string a sentence together, and don't have to constantly ask ChatGPT for the next thought or thing that you're thinking. This is the big group of topics that I've been thinking about, talking about, and as we have more and more guests on the show, really what comes up. It's training, it's hiring, it's firing, it's going after work that no one else wants to do. It's finding your own little niche and unique to you and going after that. Everything else is pretty standard, right? How we do things, code book, all that is not going to change, and it's not going to change anytime soon. But I hope you enjoy the interviews that we have coming down the pipe and the ones that you're seeing now from executives from construction, engineering, and we'll continue to have more on the show to talk about their experiences, how they teach people, and hopefully you're seeing the common theme here too, right? Be good to people, do more work, train them up, and it'll be good to you. So that is this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Until next time.